Do you think that societal pressures contribute to feelings of competition and jealousy?
So you then have that feeling that there's something wrong with you or that you're not enough. And then you can then start to feel resentful.
Every story of every Asian girl has its own unique path.
It's cool to be Asian these days. It's cool to be brown.
How do you then stop yourself from not showing up authentically because of what's going on within?
The energy that you're putting out in the world somehow is attracting you to this person at this time, and find out what it is. Hello, Brave Table fan. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your destination, your oasis to be all things just a little bit more brave in your actions, in your relationships, and in your life. And today, are you excited? Are you curious about learning to have more meaningful girlfriend conversations, more meaningful girlfriend relationships, lady gang relationships that are not transactional, that are actually coming from a place of love? Well, today, by much request, I have a roundtable talk with two of my dear besties who are also children of immigrants. And they came here all the way from Singapore and the UK to a tiny little country called Tallinn, Estonia, to actually jam with us today in person to talk about how we can create more meaningful relationships, how we can collaborate instead of bring other women down, the differences between jealousy and frenemies, as well as being a cheerleader in somebody else's life, how you can actually be the cheerleader and the sole support posse for the women that you deeply desire to connect with, to learn from, to support, and so much more. We talk about the range from being of color, people of color, women of color in an industry that is only for typically non-white folks, and so much more. Some of the cultural nuances that come about and how to actually find that and cultivate what you are seeking in your female friendships, and so much more. I think you are going to get so much value out of my dear friends, Simone Heng, who I've had on the podcast several times already. She is the loneliness expert, and she talks a lot about human connection. And we talk about her book, Let's Talk About Loneliness, which she's had, which we've had on the show as well as Dr. Lalitaa Suglani, who wrote the book High Functioning Anxiety. And guess what? A lot of us are high functioning and anxious, and she breaks all of it down here on the Brave Table this week as we merge forces. And so we're really going to get a taste and the juiciness out of the three of us, and it's wild. So without further ado, let's welcome Simone and Dr. Lalitaa again to the Brave Table this week. All right. So this is the first roundtable I have done with other female amazing besties, and I'm so glad that we're getting to see each other in person.
Mm-hmm.
I know. For the first time. I mean, second time,
but as the three of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Time.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I love about you both, we all are Hay House authors. Woo-woo. We've got your books over here. You both have been on the Brave Table. Now this is your second time.
Yeah.
And my third time.
Your third time. Clearly we love you.
We all have Indian blood.
Yes.
Oh, we all have Indian blood.
Oh my gosh, so much.
And we all love, Kit Kat matcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Singapore.
And we all serve each other food and don't split the bill to 10 cents. So these are all other things, and take our shoes off in the house.
We
all
have
good
no
things.
shoes
No
on.
DNA test needed.
And most importantly, we all hold each other. So we all rise together. I think there's a real beautiful thing with that.
And you're the queen of that because, you're one of the first, and then open the gate and are so loving. And I used to feel very alone because I just thought that was me, like doing all those introductions and connecting people. And then I met you and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not afraid.
I love when we see people like that are like us, and we're like, oh,
like you with your big following. I'll follow her. I'll follow. Not everyone is like that.
yes. Okay, let's break it down because there's so much that we want to chat about, and I think that I just and I don't know all the answers, which is why I brought you both on. But the first topic is, what does it feel like to be, Asian in a culture and industry that is predominantly
not that inclusive, for lack of a better word.
It's like basically every industry except for tech and medicine.
We didn't. We were the black sheep or brown. I say rainbow sheep. So, but some people are like, "What are you saying?" So I have to say that first, and then I'll say rainbow sheep and rainbow sheep because we just exude so much love and joy.
And also, if you're mixed, like you and I, it is rainbow. Really is probably better than maybe classifying sometimes as Asian or this that. Right?
It's we're rainbow sheep. We just didn't go. We were unconventional. Non-conventional. And how do you pave that path? And recently I came across, it was an interview, it was something where, and it was, there was this new movie that came out and I forgot the name of the guy. The guy's name, I think I'm going to butcher it. Maybe it was Dave Patel, but his new movie came out and there was, just like a write-up and somebody was writing up saying, thank you so much to Dave Patel. Because when I was growing up, I didn't have people like this paving the way for being in Hollywood and doing such roles in different roles. And now you're making it easier for my son to go into all of these different industries. And so I feel like us doing this roundtable, we're paving the way for the next generation of other maybe female authors that kind of look like us. Yeah. And I feel like growing up, even being in this seat, I literally looked up to Oprah. Yeah. She was in Chicago. She's kind of sort of close to brown. Not really. But that was the closest. So what was your kind of relationship in being unconventional?
I love how you pass that to me.
Oh, I can start, but
I don't mind. Okay, right. So for me, growing up, so I'm the first one from my dad and my mom, they didn't get to continue on with education. So out of me and the siblings, I'm one of 5, and we were the first ones to be sort of like pushed into higher education, to go to university, to do all these extra things. And even for myself, no one else had a PhD, so I went down that route. And there wasn't a real role model that was there for me. It was more of like the path. The path just opened and I just continued going down this path. And I just feel like there has been no one else there, but you really need a lot of courage and really need to do a lot of inner work to try and understand how are you going to take a different path that doesn't look like the path that everyone else is taking, and really be okay with that. So there was a lot that came up for me there. Aren't you?
Well, I had a bit of a sad moment before I came here because today's my late father's birthday. It's also the same day as you. And, for those people who don't know my story, Dad was a Singaporean immigrant shopkeeper and basically worked for 20 years without a break behind the counter of this shop and then died before making it to retirement. And so my job is a couple of things, I think, in terms of representation. It's number one, to live the most unbelievable life I can live compared to my parents' experience of life, beyond their wildest dreams, so that they can feel they fulfilled what every parent wants, is that they have a child who's happy. Yeah. And to feel that their sacrifice in becoming immigrants was achieved. So that is a big driver. The second thing is replication. I don't know, as someone who's now 40, whether I will become a mother just because of biology, and I've been through a few things with that, and I'm still single. So what I plan to do as my mission is to replicate a global female keynote speaking tribe that looks like me, that the biggest corporations in the world find credible, despite the fact like I look like a human Pokemon. And that's what I'm currently doing.
A really hot human Pokemon? May I just
add? Coming from you, I will take it, queen. But I guess that's my thing. If my legacy is not to be a mother or have children, then how else do I create something lasting in the world after I pass? And so I would love for this stereotype of East Asian women as being quiet and not having opinion, and not being known as being the most articulate of the minorities. I want to rock that. And we're currently rocking that. It's very exciting to see the shock of people's face, or to, speak in front of CEOs that look like people that my father would never even got access to. That's a weird moment. Sometimes I do have strange mid-speech moments where the back of my brain clocks that this is happening, and I'll get a bit of tears in my eyes. Like that cognitive dissonance of how is this in one generation happening?
Well, and you just said, the quiet Asian stereotype. I think yesterday we were at a coffee shop where the three of us got together, and literally we got shushed.
Yeah.
We got shushed like 3 times, and we almost got kicked out. My husband was so embarrassed for us because so context. We are in Tallinn, Estonia, and they are they're
chill.
They're chill and quiet people, and American, Brit,
Singaporean, Australian. Oh my gosh,
we were just too loud. And literally she came back 3 times.
She's like, please be quiet. Like deadpan. But I was like, so Lalita, we left and Lalita's like, your energy like just changed. And I was like, it was so great for me. I was like, I'm still an extrovert, because as you hit 40, you become more introverted because we're biologically wired to be more socially promiscuous, to pair off and mate. So at 40, you become physiologically become more introverted. And I was like, it's still in me. I still get the energy, the dopamine hit.
Yes, you
the
do.
oxytocin.
Yes, you do.
But when we're in good, positively polarized connection, I realize I feel really safe.
Okay.
Bing, 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 bing. Now, if I feel there might be potential perceived threat, or I don't feel as safe because I'm a trauma baby, trauma baby, you know what it's like. I'm a bit more reserved and skeptical before I dive in, but because I love you two and you're like my sisters on the other sides of the world, I was like, I'm sorry, we're not being quiet.
So have you been in, because now we're authors, have you been in author communities where we also talk about personal growth, spirituality, but more so, myself, but then also the other psychotherapy connections. And I think anything related to growth. But have you been in or found yourself in circumstances and situations where you did feel excluded? And what was that like to be the other? Because you just shared, well, I'm going to show my full self because I felt so seen. And have there been places where they didn't get to see that side of you?
We've been talking about this a lot during this trip, haven't we? This is a really interesting topic that we've been speaking a lot about. Because
let's talk about that.
Go for it.
No, you go first, babe. I feel you're bursting. You jumped in there. I think you should go first.
I just feel like, where is it that we have been seen in the way that we have? There's almost like this part of us where we feel like we're not seen, and that there's a fire within us that makes us want to be seen even more, but we take a different path that really aligns with us. But we were also talking just about how when we're not seen, the impact of that, the rejection, the feeling of or the abandonment that can come up where you're not fully seen the way that you are. So as a result of that, it's like what is the impact? But then what is the positive of that is when you are with the right people, you can just shine as you are, and you're not worried about, oh, is this person not going to see me? So when we were all sitting at the coffee shop yesterday, we were just being ourselves, and it was so lovely to just show up being or feeling safe enough to just show up as you are, regardless of whether the person was going to kick us out. We're like, they kick us out. Let's just go with that. Something beautiful there.
I'll take it to like the work context and the industry context, right? So I was a broadcaster for many, many years, and specifically in radio, where East Asian people don't go into radio because there really is not very much money. And I was very lucky, and I got poached to go to Dubai, which is a different world of its own. So it wasn't so bad. But I think historically, you might see an East Asian woman like a Connie Chung being a news broadcaster, but radio was seen as very mass and not very cerebral. So I was always the only one for years and years and years and years. And then to go into the self-development industry and again be one of 3 or 4 with the East Asian surname, and of that, the only female. It's incredibly lonely. And I talk about that. That's my key point, right? Where I've written a book on it. And it is lonely. And sometimes I find that there is, when I'm in North America, I don't find this in the UK so much. North America, Australians now kind of claim me as one of them, but certainly when I was a broadcaster, I felt very ostracized and not fully Australian. But when I'm in North America, I feel more of this quiet Asian stereotype that they don't expect me to be as outspoken, to speak with gravitas.
Yeah.
And also I tend to listen first because I'm based in Singapore. Being based in Singapore, it's all about strategy. The Chinese mind is about strategy. So the strategy is you listen first, you extract the information, then from there you can play your hand. Now, this is very different to when I go into rooms in America and it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So whoever is the most outspoken gets the most attention. And I find that can be very lonely for me because they underestimate me because I'm being quiet.
Right.
But I'm actually information gathering, and then I don't really talk about myself because it's all on the internet, and you can just watch for aptitude, a full 45-minute keynote. You can just watch it. You can pick up the award-winning book, just read it. I don't need to pitch myself in person, and I think sometimes that can be a disadvantage in that environment.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's like a cultural, context for sure. And I feel like for me, even just listening to what you guys have been sharing and what we've been really talking about even off air, to even have this roundtable discussion, coming from being mixed and born in the US, I felt like I didn't really belong to either side. And because I'm racially ambiguous, I get all kinds of things.
You and I both, baby.
Right? And so to me, I found it more of an advantage than anything else because I would stick out like a sore thumb and they'd be like, oh, you're exotic, tell me more. Where are you from? And is that lonely? I think that's the piece. Like, where does loneliness fit in the idea that at the end of the day, or kind of our psychological processes, we all just want to feel love. We want to feel acceptance. We want to belong.
Yeah.
That's the full nature of everything. And so when you don't feel belonging, and when you don't feel that you can actually share your truest gifts, then there's almost a sense of, we're starting to dim our lights.
Yeah.
And in that, I remember a specific instance being in LA and where everybody kind of in personal growth is like blonde hair, blue eyes, and,
6 packs, abs,
yes,
Lululemon.
Yes. And even like running around in flowy dresses and just like no culture at all. And, I'm just going to be, this is the brave table. But you almost feel like, oh, okay, I want to acquiesce. I want to assimilate. I want to, because I am a chameleon. I grew up in Chicago, the streets of Chicago, not the streets, but I think I was kind of gangster in many ways. But I feel like you have this sense of this chameleon vibe where there is this sense of assimilation or picking up to dim your culture, to dim your light, to fit in so that you are accepted, and then you forget all of the things you bring to the table that is so unique and so different. It wasn't cool to be brown back in the day when we were growing up.
Yeah. Not in our age group.
I mean, literally.
It is now, though. It is very cool to be a person of color now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk more about that. Why is that?
Well, I just want to say, and I just love this idea. So I decolonized myself. So I grew up between 2 colonies, Singapore and Australia. British colonies, and they used to shout on the street, go back to where you come from, and I'm one of the few people that went back to where they came from, where I was born, and immediately as like a commercial model back in the early mid-2000s received all the privilege that I got to see the experiment, cover of magazines, campaigns, immediately based on I basically got to see all the privilege I didn't have. We didn't have the words for it then. And then I got to receive all of it. But I always felt that I was trying to assimilate in Australia. Always. I couldn't be Aussie enough. But what I think is really interesting, I would love Lalitaa to talk about this because she grew up in a part of the UK with a huge South Asian population. So did you feel that you could be more brown without having to
I think it's interesting you say that because, my parents came from, they were first generation, so I'm second generation, but they had a different culture, a different way of us wanting to be in the world. So they had their own rules. And so we went in thinking that like we had a strict upbringing, and it's not again blaming parents or trying to point fingers anywhere, but we weren't allowed to color our hair, we weren't allowed to cut our hair, we weren't allowed to wear makeup and up until a certain age. So we went to secondary school, and all of these things we weren't able to do, but then we were in and around other people who were doing these things. So there was a real like disconnection because you felt like you wanted to belong, but then you didn't fit there. And then at home, you felt like, okay, but this doesn't really fit me. Because I remember speaking to my dad about business and speaking to my dad about other things, but you were never listened to because of being a female and what he had in his head of what a female is, and him getting ready for, okay, a female from his end, or what his thinking was back then was a female is to sort of like, we're going to push to education because that's something we didn't get, but you're going to get married, and when you get married you become a daughter-in-law, and when you're a daughter-in-law there's certain roles and things that you need to do, like cooking, clean, like that. We're prepping you for that, and now we have open conversations and we can discuss this and we can talk through this, but back then you didn't. So there's this feeling of shame if you're not fitting in there, and if you're primed, or if you're wearing makeup, people are going to talk about you. People are going to say, oh, your daughter's like this, or so you're going to bring shame to the family. So you're carrying all of this, and it's like, can't do it wrong, or can't do it wrong, because if you do, you have to keep up these appearances because people are going to talk. But it's very community led, and it stops people from being authentic and who they want to be.
See, this is what I'd love is like we go the umbrella of Asian, but within this,
there's so many different
things.
Layers.
I was watching that new show Sprint on Netflix, and the world's fastest woman is our height, right? Yeah. And I remember I just had this moment thinking, my parents, how different they were from the average Asian household in 3 ways. Number one, my parents never belittled me about being small. Number two, mixed marriage, but they never talked shadeism. So when my sister and I would go and get really dark in the sun during the summer, never once was it like, don't get too dark. Whereas I have a lot of mixed race girlfriends, part white, part Asian, who the mothers would say, don't go in the sun. And that was really, and number three, my mother was a feminist. So she was an early scholarship winner from the Singaporean government to study in the UK. And because of that, this whole marriage thing, that wasn't, she was so dominant over my dad. So that wasn't the home. So I thank you so much for sharing this, because as much as we're alike, it is a reminder that every story of every Asian girl has its own unique path.
There are the nuances for sure. And, we all get kind of like pegged in just one big box. And I'm glad that we
our token box. Is it a token box?
Our token.
It's getting better.
The token box, it's getting bigger. Like I said, I think that it's cool to be Asian these days. It's cool to be brown. And I was literally looking at a meme this morning that it wasn't a meme, sorry, it was like some Gen Z
love it
creator and collabing with another, and she happened to be from she was born in the US but raised in India, and he was raised in the US, and they're Gen Z creators, and so they're kind of going back and forth like, why do you not want to be considered like Indian? Oh, because it's not cool. Oh, because our food smells, or like all of the things, right? And then she's like, but what do you mean? Your parent, like like you drink chai lattes at Starbucks, you do yoga, you're using turmeric in your food. Yeah. And so where did that all come from? And so, it was just interesting that back then it wasn't a thing, but now since there's so many people paving the way in a lot of those industries, it's just normalizing culture. I think I was just sharing this, like Diljit Dosanjh, he's the first guy wearing a turban that went full mainstream and was on, Jimmy Fallon.
I saw that.
And it was just like because so many of my uncles took off their buggeries.
I didn't even know you were part Punjabi. You're Sikh.
Yeah, not Sikh, but a lot. So where my dad was from, he was born in Patiala, Punjab, and the way that they grew up kind of in northern India, a lot of times if you were Hindu Punjabi or just Punjabi, there's, your friends and family, they're Sikh. So they're sick. And so you would go to the Gurdwara. I grew up going to Gurdwara and the Hindu temple.
Yeah.
And it was just a thing. That's just like what you do. So I always have to preface this by saying, not sick, but we would go to the Gurdwara.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of Sindhis are like that as well.
Yeah.
So as I'm learning more and more, meeting more Sindhis even in this town.
Oh, I lived in Dubai for 5 years. I know lots of Sindhis. Yeah.
So it's very interesting. But yeah, a lot of my uncles, they decided to be Mona, shave their heads, cut their hair because of the extreme, Islamophobia that is in the
That's
Western
so sad,
world.
isn't it? It's so sad that they have been forced to go down a path because they, again, want to fit in, but they don't want to be judged and they don't want to be criticized in a certain way. So to fit in and to look a certain way, you have to go down this path, even though it goes against what your values might be saying.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like Bad Bunny, the big, Latin star, he was the one that's now kind of non-binary and painting his nails and, cross-dressing, but like fabulous, fashionable, and, owning everything. So I feel like this is the time that that culture is so important. So I feel like it is changing. I wanted to get into... So we are all high achievers. We're probably all high functioning anxiety. We're highly shout out to Lalita and her book because I learned a lot while reading that. Do you think that societal pressures contribute to feelings of competition and jealousy? And why is that?
Definitely. I feel like sometimes and social media is a pure example. We could just be scrolling, but it's like, what messages are you getting from social media? So you might look at someone else, and if you're feeling insecure about something, so say if you're not in the job that you want to be in, or you're not in the relationship that you want to be in, and then you're scrolling on social media and you're like, oh, look, everyone else has it. Look, what's wrong with me? So you then have that feeling that there's something wrong with you or that you're not enough. And then you can then start to feel resentful. But then you look at other people as well, and it's like, say if you're insecure about something, it can come out through competition because you then think, oh, your jacket's really nice. And then behind the scenes, I'm like then talking like, oh, did you see her jacket? Because there might be something about me that doesn't feel like I'm enough. So I will then project that out onto other things. And it's, how do you then stop yourself from not showing up authentically because of what's going on within? So I know we've had loads of conversations about this, about how the inner work is so important to do. I know she's bursting to say something now, so go for it.
I just want to say, okay, so we are born one day apart, but 7 years apart. You're 40.
But we have a lot of we finish off each other's sentences.
But
and everything.
So I just want to say that the beautiful thing that once you hit 40, and if you've done the really painful inner work, and if you've built a life where you absolutely love it, like my back end of my email inbox right now is so badass. I really love the life that I've built. I'm Jane Bond. It's amazing.
Yes,
so I don't get that comparisonitis that I used to when I 6-7 years ago, or when everyone else was getting married and I wasn't. So then my cup runneth over, and I also don't scroll. So that's why I'm sorry, girls. You probably don't get me watching as many of your stories, or when I do, it's when I'm posting and your stuff comes up. I like it. But because I know so much of the human connection science and what that dopamine feedback loop does, and I have to model what I write in that book, I'm a post and ghoster, and my social media coaches hate me for it, but it protects my mental health. And then it also creates kind of an echo chamber of gratitude for me. So I see the opportunities come in my inbox, and then I'm not getting comparisonitis. And so then I'm super happy, and I just love buying other people gifts and connecting other people with stuff. But that took till 40, and that took some really brutal therapy. It wasn't always like this.
Yeah, I feel like I have always been maybe because of how I grew up, or my, trauma stories of abandonment, but I've always had like a group of like solid girlfriends. So, when we hear so much about jealousy and then like the frenemies and the, just kind of like the negativity that can come up when people are rising, or like the takedowns and things like that. I haven't experienced it. I have experienced bullying when I was younger. I mean, deep bullying when I was in the 7th grade. but still, I had a really solid group of friends. And I meet people like you. And I think maybe because our vibration is as such that we just don't give, that energy to those kinds of things and those kinds of people. You're a poster and ghoster. I mean, my team kind of does all of this. And so I rarely am on there too because of the same reasons.
Yeah, same.
It takes me into a whole loop and I get very, very low. And it's not even just, it's just, you become a robot. And now that I have young kids, I'm like, I don't want them to see me on there, because now my son is very smart and he's like, Mama, why are you working again on your phone? Stop working. He associates me with the phone as working. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. And so, if this is just for anybody who's listening or watching this, what if you just reframed what that sounded like? What if you reframed, instead of it being, there's so much of this jealousy around there, what if we chose the high road? And it's not, we're not trying to bypass, but I think
we also don't know the price that people pay for what they're posting online. And by that, I mean that when people post this relationship that looks so perfect, you just don't know what's going on in the back end. No. So it's absolutely futile to compare to something that you just don't know the back end. And I came from a family where there was a lot of, the bullies were more in the family than they were at school, There was a lot of the aunties looking down at what I was trying to do, what I was trying to build. And I was also in the entertainment industry because I wanted to relive that. So that's what happens to traumatized people. Whatever you grow up with in your formative childhood years, you want to just relive that in your nervous system. And then you choose an industry that's going to give you the same feelings as those aunties. And I decided when the healing happened, and obviously it still happens, but when I decided to start the business, I was like, I'm not taking that into this.
Yeah.
So I choose to be happy for all my girls and connect all my girls, because I feel that things are abundant. And I get DMs all the time like, Simone, can you give me any speaking gigs you don't want? Or how are you getting all the gigs that you do? Here's how I get all the stuff. I just give to everyone, and I never keep score, because I grew up with the Singaporean community being like, I did this for this one. She never did back for me. I remember in 1947, I gave her family food during the post-war era. And then when she had food, she never called me. Like, come on, guys, let it go. Frozen, let it go, right? So this was like, and I just thought I am not taking that inherited stuff into and I'm sanitizing. And I choose to be happy for all my girls and all my little sisters who are going to come after me and be on stage and take my stages. And and I'm like, get on, you're going to be next. Get on Neeta's podcast. Like, I'm that person, because that
You're
makes
really good at that.
Me spiritually abundant. And therefore, that's why my email inbox looks the way it does.
It's cheerleading, isn't it?
It's cheerleading.
And it's also like, I think the more that you start working on yourself and you develop this self-awareness and you become more understanding of your patterns, and you understand, okay, if I am feeling jealousy, let me sit with that. What is that about?
That's an arrow.
Like, what is going on here?
That is an arrow to some work.
Understand and sit with it, journal,
Although
reflect.
I am jealous of Neeta's very tight body at her age.
Yeah. But
I don't know about you, but I'm energetically 28, period.
And I was like, babe, what are you
What's the
doing?
secret?
Give me I want it all. Give it to me.
But you admit it. You say it. You're not going behind us.
It's not jealousy.
Yeah, you're not-
It's admiration.
It's admiration.
It's actually admiration.
So let's break this down. The difference between jealousy and admiration.
Wow. Admiration is that I don't feel Neeta having a rockin' hot body and cute dimples makes me uglier. You know
There's
what I mean?
appreciation.
Jealousy and envy are like, Neeta's rockin' hot body and dimples is somehow makes me uglier, less desirable, more wounded.
Yeah.
All those things. I think that's my makeup definition that I just made up on the spot.
No, I think it's a real appreciation, isn't it? You can look at Neeta now and really appreciate her and be grateful for
I
the
totally
way that she shows
appreciate
up, which is beautiful, rather than it being jealousy. And then later on you say to me, oh, can you believe Neeta's doing this, this, this? That's then the jealousy coming in because you've seen something and it's made you feel something.
No,
Well, it's almost coming from a place of lack, though.
Yes.
Where the admiration is coming from a place of abundance.
Yeah.
So
the higher vibe.
Neeta saw a dress that I had in the pandemic. And this is how much and then she was like, babe, that dress is amazing. And I know I bought it pre-pandemic, so I know you can't buy it anymore. And I even got it hemmed to our height. So I knew it was ready to go.
Look at us,
and I wore it out recently, and post-pandemic it is it's uncomfortable for me. Like I can wear it, but I'm like triple spanking and it's not fun. Triple spanking, guys, not spanking. And
Spanking
I went
too.
3 spanks underneath it to make it work. And so Neeta was like, I love that dress. I was like, baby, it's yours. And she wore it the other day. We went to watch her speak.
Amazing.
And I
It looked
turned
beautiful.
to her. I was like, that dress looks so much better on her skin tone and her body than me. It looks amazing. And I was taking photos. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And that's what we need to do more of, because like you were saying, it's what is it that you don't see in yourself, that there isn't enough for things to go around, opportunities to go around, other ventures to go around, other, pots of money to go around.
It is
if
just
we're all in the same
abundant.
industry. It's all abundant at the end of the
And I think
of
it's
the
also
day.
like seeing that jealousy. I think sometimes it's given a really bad stigma. Like if we think jealousy is a bad thing, and it's a bad thing if you choose to sit in it, but sometimes it's teaching you something, and it's sitting with, I am feeling this, but what is this about? I'm really trying to make sense of it, rather than thinking I'm a bad person because I'm having these thoughts or these feelings. I think it's all about self-awareness, understanding, and then conscious change to then be able to, how do I now move forward with this? And keep integrating it in.
Yeah, so good.
So good.
Oh my gosh, so good. All right. Let's talk about how do we build more deeper and more authentic female connections? Like how the heck did this vibe come about?
Oh yeah.
The queen of connection and how do you build them based on real authentic relationships and not just business transactions? Because I go, and I'm sure you've
we
been
talked about this as
We've
well.
been talking about all of these things.
Okay, good.
things.
So let's spill the chai on this, because I think it's so important that there's a lot of people that I'm sure we all know who only go into things for the business transactions, and there's no meat behind it. There's no relationship behind it. And I'm like, how do people even do things like that? I am so turned off by that.
So the other day,
let's talk about this.
Lalita said to me, somebody said to her, Lalita, if you want more of XYZ, Simone does a lot of those XYZ things. Isn't she your friend? Why don't you just ask her? And Lalita burst out laughing, thought it was hilarious because we're so close. It's almost like I'm emailing her stuff all the time. Like it felt dirty that someone would reduce something that's so deep down to something so basic.
And I would just message you. I'd be like, hey, Simone, I need this. Can you help me with this? Or can you do this? It just makes sense to do
half
that.
the time I jump ahead, I was like, babe, do you want this? Like, do you want this? I can do. She's like, yeah, I'll in a few months. I was like, no, auntie will forget. Email me now to, it's such that cognitive dissonance again, it's such a reminder that so many people live in that. And you lived in LA, I'm sure there was a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that.
Yeah.
So I think firstly, vulnerability is really important for women to feel that there are points of relatability. Like I know there is a lot in how powerfully I show up that can be very triggering for other women. And if they would make the effort to get to know me, they know that I'm really kind and really generous, but the confidence is so off-putting. And it's then because I'm very warm like you and I make fun of myself and all these things, and you see that the wall just drops. If I call myself a Pokemon or this, that, but I want to live in a world where I can be at my highest vibration and that connection can still be made without me dimming. And that's my big challenge this year. So on that note, true vulnerability, not false vulnerability, is a wonderful way to really connect and take things to a different level. Second thing I want to say is when you say, how did this happen? Talking about 3 people who've done a lot of work on their own trauma, a lot of personal development. We do it so effortlessly that my brain is now really struggling to track how this happened because it was so magical and immediate. And it's not so easy for other people. So firstly, it happened because there's something called commonalities connects, which I talk about in my work. It's very, very powerful in a polarized world. It's where you see parts of yourself in other people. And immediately when I saw your name at our publisher's mastermind on the card and I had Googled who you are and I saw this petite woman with big brown eyes and a small chin. And I was like, this is my sister. What is happening? And I actually connected with Vasavi before you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw you guys in front of the New York Times banner. I was like, who is this little more tanned version of me? And where do I find her? And was so overjoyed that you had such a bigger following than me, but you were so humble and giving, and you made me feel less alone. So when we find someone with points of relatability, we identify them as part of that ancestral tribe that we evolved in as Homo sapiens, gives us a sense of safety, which makes the outreach and approach more easy. Yeah. So in a polarized world, number one, stop measuring, Gen Z, I'm talking to you. Stop measuring the distance between yourself and the 55-year-old white man. Like, stop measuring that. Stop articulating it if you want connection, because every single person has value to add regardless of what they look like. So it's about bringing us closer together, and then finding, even within someone who could be so phenotypically different from us, what are those points that we can connect in? So if I meet a 5'11" blonde Russian woman living here in Estonia, first point of relatability, oh, well, we're both foreign here in Estonia. So how did you get here? How did I get here? These are things that natural human connectors do. People had analog childhoods, remember how to do. We are now in a connection crisis where people have forgotten how to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're doing it online, which I think is so, it's so interesting. And the part where you said about, to be able to have intergenerational friendships. I feel like just being here this week to be able to have, the variety of the different kinds of people that, sometimes come into your life. And I feel like for anybody watching and listening, if you are bumping into somebody twice at a coffee shop, there's probably a reason why you're bumping into them. Like, there is no small fee. Like, the energy that you're putting out in the world somehow is attracting you to this person at this time, and find out what it is. Like, be curious about that. But I think it also takes intentionality.
Yeah.
And a sense of spirituality, that there's something bigger than you, because you'd be surprised. I live in somewhere like Singapore. Very few people would think that that's a knock from the universe. Whereas I'd be like, did I just manifest Zac Efron? That is a Zac Efron lookalike. Hello, my friend. I know you're at least 10 years younger than me, even though Lalita thinks you're my age. So I think that is also a compliment to the fact that you are connected to something bigger than you, right? Or we are connected to something bigger than us.
So we can go on, and I love this trio, and I hope you all are enjoying this, watching this on YouTube. But let's get into our final round, which is our real Spill the Chai round. And you have a couple of cards from our That's Like Now What conversation card. So go ahead and read your card. What does it say?
I thought our final round was forming a girl band and starting to practice singing the parts. Okay. This question, actually, the first thing, it reminds me of your book, Lalitaa. Okay.
Oh, really?
It says, what skill did you recently learn, and how has it impacted / changed your life? And I shared this when we all connected the other day for breakfast. So the skill is leaning back, which for the daughter of an immigrant shopkeeper and an immigrant myself, and someone who felt that I always had to do 30,000 things more than everyone else to even be noticed, is at 40 learning to let go, lean back, and really enjoy every blessing and live, because the hard work has been done. Like, it's done, kids. 40, that's already over my parents' middle life expectancy. My dad died at 60. My mother was paralyzed at 67. So I'm already, I'm beating mum and dad's curve. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts.
You're matriarch.
Well, yeah. So now this has been life-changing, much more present, and everything feels more easy. So less high-functioning anxiety. Is the thing. Not that I don't love your book, babe, but like learning.
No, I think we're all high-functioning. I think we're overcome the anxiety bit. I feel like we're all high-functioning. We've really stepped into that high-functioning bit. So we're stepping into authenticity rather than we're coming from that place of anxiety, which is what the book's all about. Yeah,
you haven't dated me, babe. So just whatever. I love that. Thank you.
I love these cards. I absolutely love them.
It's such a great question.
I know. And they've really made you just stop and really just think about it. So my question here is, what are you most proud of in your life? And I take it back. I know. I was like, oh, what am I most proud of? I'm honestly, the biggest thing for me is really standing in my own light. I think that's the biggest thing I'm proud of. I'm really just taking a step back, thinking, what is that? And it's not that anxiety, that perfectionism, that people pleasing taking over. It's you really just stepping and being true to yourself and speaking out when you need to, rather than being afraid. So it's stepping into that courage, which we've spoken about, and you have your little angel. But yeah, that's what I would say.
And she's amazing. I wish at 33 that I was as empowered. Like she,
Oh my
like
goodness.
she inspires like my former self that's already gone.
She inspires me. Every time I see her, I'm like, at 40, that's how I'm going to be. I'm going to be like that. I'm going to be like that. There's a boss woman. and just
Well, and I love
showing
that we
off
can all
visual.
inspire each other.
Exactly.
And that's
We
why
know
I
that
brought you
our
on.
internal spirit is 28. We know that.
Yes. The
guys
the
don't
trio,
look
the
your age.
triangle.
Just think that makes you feel
Chinese
better.
lymphatic
Lymphatic
Rachel,
drainage. Next time we'll spill the codes on our anti-aging techniques. I just wanted to say I love you both. It has been an honor to play with you all this week. I know we're celebrating lots of things, and thank you so much for pouring into our community.
You are
Thank
a gift.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are amazing.
You,
Honestly, your
like,
light, your aura
Your
is just
light, your
beautiful.
face, your abs,
Wait.
and also,
Yeah,
I
everything.
like having watched. I used to watch. I watched obviously Neeta's stories, but like watching Neeta act, her level of patience, compassion, not judgmental, not a bad word about anyone will come out of this woman's mouth. And when you're in the personal development industry, and when you're a newbie to it, like me, and realize that not everyone acts with that level of alignment. That was so diplomatic for me, like to be like, wow. But thank you. You set a brilliant example. Thank you.
I receive that. I receive that, ladies. Well, you can follow Simone at simone.heng on Instagram.
Simone Heng, no dot.
Okay, Simone Heng. Okay, and Dr. Lalitaa?
Yeah, with a dot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will link those both in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, thank you so much for tuning in. We would love for you to share it with a girlfriend, a bestie, somebody that could use a little bit more bravery in their lives. And maybe you are curious about more meaningful relationships and meaningful conversations. I've linked 3 additional episodes that will help you not only have better relationships with the opposite sex in your life. I've linked that episode as well as 2 other ones, and also Dr. Lalita's episode and Simone's episode on loneliness. So that is also for you to binge watch in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time on The Brave Table.
You know I've got so much more in store for you. So if you are really ready to dive in and keep owning your emotions like the boss that you are, click right here. Go ahead, don't be shy. I'll see you in the next one. Keep shining.